Hey, Jules.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Nick Leydorf here, just cutting up the music. How are you guys doing? It is Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. Whoops, turn this down. Tech. Oh, not my strong suit sometimes. Thanks so much for coming in and checking out Off the Clock, you guys. So I'm going to do this every Wednesday, 8 p.m. in my basement. So it is kind of chilly down here. A lot of spiders down here too. It gets kind of creepy. So yeah, just check out if you have any questions. Just drop them in the comments. I'll read them. But basically, the point of this show is I'm just gonna answer some questions that people have sent to me, and kind of just being a lawyer is boring a lot of the time. So I just wanted to make it as light as possible, make it more approachable. So. I love answering questions. There's no such thing as a dumb one. There's funny ones, but there's not anything like that. So I got some great questions from the people. Yeah, in the news today, I just read before we just went on that we had over 36,000 new positive cases in the United States, which is the most since April. It broke the April record, which is very concerning, obviously, seeing that we're opening things back up. I don't really know what's going to happen with that and how we're going to do that. I mean, I don't know what you guys are doing. In the comments, let me know what you're doing with are you wearing a mask in public? What's your level of comfort with this? What do you guys think? What's going on? Do you think this is what we're doing, opening things back up, is something that's going to help us, hurt us? What are your thoughts? I'm curious to know what you guys, personally, I I try and wear a mask in public pretty much every time just to be safe. I will go, like if I go through the drive-through, I don't necessarily wear a mask. Maybe I should. I don't know. What do you guys think on that one? We're all learning through this, which is a really interesting, because other than back in the 1900s where we had the Spanish flu epidemic, I don't think we've ever had to deal with anything like this. I certainly haven't had to deal with this in my lifetime. Hopefully never again. But we're all learning through this, and it's causing a lot of, interesting conversations that you have with loved ones, because we're all not on the same page. We're all different people. We have different ways of thinking and things, and it's interesting time. We have to have a lot of difficult conversations, which is, can be stressful, but in the end, I think as long as we keep talking with our families about what's going on, we can only learn from one another, and we're not perfect. So I think that's something we can learn from this, and hopefully we can all find a happy medium to getting things going economy-wise, which I think obviously we need to do, but also balancing safety with that, which is going to be something that's going to be difficult. I don't know how we're gonna do that. One thing I want to talk with you guys, I just learned about this too, is this. I read of this story from the ACLU about a person that was wrongly arrested in the city of Detroit based on facial recognition policy. So I don't know if you guys have seen that. And it's kind of an interesting article to read. I'll post it in the comments so you guys can take a look at it. There's also a YouTube video from the ACLU of Michigan that talked about what happened. There's the article. Hey Anna, wear a mask when possible. Yeah, I know. For little ones, it's got to be scary too. I don't have a super little one, but yeah, I didn't really think about that. How difficult that can be for someone like a toddler, that they might get scared with stuff like that. So that's interesting. So yeah, this story from Detroit, I just read about. This happened back in January, and he was wrongfully accused and arrested in front of his kids in his neighborhood in Detroit, based on some facial recognition technology that was used by the city of Detroit and the Michigan State Police, which was it's an interesting read, because there was a series of break-ins at Shinola Watches in Detroit, and from what I read from this article, you guys can read it for yourself. What happened is they pulled the surveillance camera from that robbery and matched it up, tried to use facial recognition technology to match up and get a suspect from using facial recognition technology and the video. And so they used that technology to match up that. They pulled a name and a photo. This guy who, I don't know his name right now, Robert something. They pulled, let's just say his name is Robert. I apologize if it's not Robert. But they pulled the guy's name, and then they took that data that they had, matched it up, and then showed a video of, showed the picture of Robert to the guy the security officer who didn't even witness the robbery but just saw the video. Then, from what I've seen and what the ACLU has posted and what this guy has shared with what had happened, he then gets a phone call from the city of Detroit police saying, we want you to come down and we want you to give a statement. And then he thought it was a joke, because I've honestly gotten calls like that before, where I don't know if you guys ever gotten these calls where like the IRS calls you and they're like, hey, yeah, Tiffany, he was black. Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, he was black, and it's just another, just a terrible thing that's happening. Just his. If you watch the video, it breaks down how this had to happen in front of his young daughters, and it's just heartbreaking. But so I forgot where I was at. Sorry about that. So he gets a call. I don't know if you guys have gotten those calls from like the IRS saying like, hey, you owe us $10,000. We're around the corner. You don't pay us $10,000, we're gonna come arrest you. And he's like, I whatever, and he just hangs up the phone. And then they come to his house and they arrest him based on this evidence. And I guess the eyewitness identification, not even an eyewitness, just the identification of a security store, the security guard from the Shinola store, and the facial recognition technology. So they arrest him. He's in jail back in January. Luckily, it wasn't during COVID-19. He's arrested. He's in there for 30 hours. After 18 hours of being in custody, detectives pull him out and they're like, hey, do you want to give a statement? Normally, I would advise somebody, do not give a statement to the police under any circumstances whatsoever. But here, it actually allowed the police to realize that they made a huge mistake, which is probably going to cost the Michigan State Police and the Detroit Police Department a pretty hefty sum of money, as it should, because this is completely ridiculous. So they pull the guy out. They ask him to give a statement. They line up the photos, and the suspect, the guy that's been wrongfully arrested, basically has a conversation with him saying, this isn't me, and holds the picture up to the guy, up to his face, and is like, this isn't me. And then according to the guy that's wrongfully arrested, the officers are like, whoops, and then he's released. Super scary result with this. This is using technology is. I'm a huge tech nerd. I love technology. I'm using a standing desk right now, talking to you, doing this whatever this is, podcast. I don't know if this is a live podcast, whatever you is. I use technology all the time, wireless charging. But at what point are we going to rely on this technology to take away someone's rights and do something that can never be undone? This guy can never erase the memory from his family of him getting arrested in his front yard with his two kids. Crazy to me that this even happened. The Detroit Police Department and Michigan State Police say that they don't rely on facial recognition technology. I'll be interested to see what happens with this case. It's going to get settled out of court, so we probably won't know all the details of what happened. But there's no way you can tell me that they found this guy's picture, or because he wasn't even there. There's other than facial recognition technology, there's no way that they found where this guy who he was, because what they did is they used the Secretary of State, your photo. And you go to your driver's license. That's basically probably what they did. They used his photo, matched up with an address, found a phone number, and called him. Terrifying result. What do you guys think about this? What's the line? I'd be interested to see what you guys have to say about that, because being a defense attorney, I believe in there's a process that we have to go through. But at what point does guessing get in the way of your rights? And when it's wrong, what we can't undo this. It's crazy. So yeah, watch that video. I put it in the comments. Check it out. It's pretty terrifying. That could happen to any of us. And then it's like, what do we do with this information? What do we do? Well, talk to your legislator. I mean, find out who that is. I can post a link to find out exactly who that is, and talk to these people. They listen to constituents more than you think, especially in times like this where we don't know. Polling data, especially in Michigan, isn't great, so they want to pay attention to who their who their constituents are right now. So that's something I think that we should all be doing. I just saw that right before we went on here, and it really just bothered me. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, because I hadn't heard about that back in January. So share that article and just be mindful of all this stuff. This is stuff we have to pay attention to, this stuff before it gets too out of control. I mean, I don't know. One of my friends, we'll get into some questions. One of my friends brought up a really good question right before we went on too, which was why is a handgun illegal? Why is a handgun legal, but brass knuckles illegal? It's kind of interesting. I didn't really thought about that for a while. That's a pretty interesting question, right? I mean, brass knuckles, possession of that is a felony in the state of Michigan. That is, it's yeah, it's that's one of the highest level things. But walking around, you can open carry an AK-47 down the street, and that's completely legal. You can absolutely do that. And as long as you register the handgun and don't conceal it, you can open carry that. I've had cases with brass knuckles before. It's a weird law, and I don't understand. It's one of those laws that, like, why is it even? What's the point of it? Brass knuckles are something you can use to defend yourself. There's something that you can use to attack somebody. But hey, guess what? A handgun is too. Probably one of the most dangerous things that you can have on the planet that a regular person can just go and buy is a handgun. And I don't know many people that are going hunting with a handgun. I don't know any, to be honest with you. So I don't know what purpose that serves other than just our country's history with guns. Maybe, I don't know. We don't have. If it was written in the Constitution that you had a right to possess brass knuckles, I guess we'd probably have a different conversation. But this seems kind of weird, doesn't it? That there's these laws. Why are they still in effect when there are other things that probably could do way more damage than I've never heard of. A mass attack from someone with brass knuckles. I've never seen anyone walk into a school and attack people with brass knuckles. I've never heard anything about that. But guns are something that's just up until COVID was something that was just unfortunately a daily occurrence. So yeah. Oh, Alex commented, yeah, facial recognition one step closer to Skynet. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And then on college campuses, you're not allowed to pepper spray. Right. That too. That is. I'd have to read the statute again, so I don't want to talk on a term. But yeah, that's not even. May not even be on college. I'd have to read it again, but I apologize for that. But yeah, there's all that. My point is that these weird categories of laws that we have, and I don't necessarily know why they are the way they are. We've made our way through now to 2020, and there's these things that are still out there that a lot of people probably don't even realize. You can go buy brass knuckles, but how are you allowed to sell them but not possess them? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I mean, it's just basically you're just a walking way to be arrested and by the police and charged with a felony. So yeah, crazy. Let's see. All right. So, next question was from someone who wanted to remain anonymous, and I completely respect that. It's a good question, though, and so I wanted to tackle it, especially with summer and being outside and everything like that now. So, the question is I'm reading through the recreational marijuana laws, and what I found is that you can't smoke on your private property anywhere that's visible to the public. Is that correct? Okay. So then that's the first part. Then the second part is what I'm wondering is what constitutes visible to the public. For example, if I'm on my porch, I'm probably like 75% obstructed view, but if you get caught in the right angle, you might be able to see what's going on. Is there a certain distance from the sidewalk that constitutes not visible? Okay. So basically this question is like, where can you use recreational marijuana? So looking at the law itself, I'll copy and paste that for you guys in the chat, and then we'll kind of get into this in a second. So if you go there, that's where the Michigan recreational marijuana is. So what is not protected? So I'll just pull the snippet from it. This is section 4. This act does not authorize operating, navigating, or being in physical control of any motor vehicle, and then there's a bunch of motor vehicle, aircraft, snowmobile, off-road recreational vehicle, motorboat, while under the influence of marijuana. Okay, that makes sense. All right, because I think we can all agree that, like, you know, while it should be legal for us to use it, you can't put others in risk, and when you're operating under the influence of something, that kind of buzzword pun buzzword is something that we, you know, under the influences, we don't want people driving around and being able to hurt people. Completely understandable. All right, so then, or it doesn't protect the transfer of marijuana or marijuana accessories to a person under the age of 21. Okay, we picked that age, that makes sense. Or any person under the age of 21 to possess, consume, purchase, or otherwise obtain, process, transport, or sell marijuana. Or it doesn't protect, again, the separation of plant resin by butane extraction or some other method that utilizes the substance within a flash point more than 100 degrees. Okay. Or within the curtilage of any residential structure. Or consuming marijuana in a public place, or smoking marijuana where prohibited by the person who owns, occupies, or manages the property. So this is what this question is getting to. So, consuming marijuana in a public place. Now, the beginning of the question says, let's see, if I'm on my porch, I'm probably a 75% obstructed view. So let's just assume, let's read this the way this is written, and let's kind of tackle this, I guess. So, consuming marijuana in a public place. Now, is your porch a public place? No, I would argue that it is not, because it's protected. You can keep people off of that. That's something that. So yeah, I think if you're in your backyard, let's say, is that public? No, I think that's private. I mean, you're keeping it from, you have a fence or you have something. It's yours to keep people off of it. So I think, and I did a little bit of research on this too, just because I've not had this question come up since it's been legal in practice yet. But so in reading this, I don't see how you could be cited for violating this law where you're not in a public place. So as long as you're not in a public place, you're in a place that you have, that's not open to the public. So your backyard's not open to the public. Your front porch not open to the public. I think that's where the Pete Remino, I love motorboating. Me too. I haven't been in a while. But yeah, I think that's the answer to that. Is I don't think you have to be concerned about using it on your back porch or your front porch even, because it's not open to the public. So yeah, I think that's kind of the way to get to that one. Next, so thanks for the question, and I appreciate that. If you have, if you guys have more questions about that, let me know. Throw them in the comments, and I'll get to them. Last question that we have is from Ashley. She was wondering if you could maybe cover something about this, which I'll tell you, include the link. Interested in how you think legally should handle roadside drug testing. So this is a great question and something that you have to share with everyone else. So road testing in general, whether it be like you get pulled over for suspicion of drunk driving, at the middle of the night you get pulled over, they think you're drunk, and they say, will you take a portable breath test, preliminary breath test, that little handheld thing on the side of the road. Please do not do that. Under any circumstances, don't take that test. For instance, for that matter, don't even. There's certain things you have to do, and I'm working on some videos on what you need to do when you're confronted with the police. But there's certain things you don't have to do, but we just do because there's a psychology of how when you interact with a police officer. I know when I'm from a small town, Pete and I grew up in Bannister, where I never saw a cop. I don't think, and I don't think I ever saw one until I went to Elsie, and there was one cop that lived there, which is a really small town next to Bannister, which is less than, there's not even a traffic light there. So, but we're taught that, like, the police are that helped us, and that kind of thing. There's a lot of great police officers, okay? I get that. But they have a job to do, and their job is to, make arrests. That's part of their job. And when they ask you to do certain things, like perform a roadside sobriety test or take a preliminary breath test, those are probably one of the worst decisions you can ever make, because you are going to be tested for something that you've never done before, and the tests themselves are probably not going to be explained to you correctly. There's a lot of flaws in all of this, is what I'm saying. So you do not, under any circumstances, have to do any kind of roadside testing on the side of the road. On the side of the road. So think about this: when you're on the side of the road, you don't have to do any kind of test whatsoever. You don't have to do a preliminary breath test. You don't have to do what Ashley's talking about, which is a roadside drug test, which they're not talking about. So over the years since and this kind of ties into what we were talking about with recreational marijuana. So now that recreational marijuana is everywhere in Michigan, and people are using, how do we test for that? That's what the police are thinking. How do we test for that? How do we make people safe? Which I completely agree with. So making people safe, I don't have any problems with that whatsoever. However, how do we do that? That's the question. And when we're talking about these roadside tests, which Ashley's question about, is there's a pilot program in a number of counties where they're using a swab of your mouth. They use it and stick it on a test, and they can determine whether or not they think that you've used THC, other kinds of drugs. Okay, the idea of it, okay, that might be a good idea. But how do we put this in practice? And those are two completely different things with where we are right now. And a great question. So you can't lose your license on a roadside breathalyzer test. You cannot. And that's the people's biggest misconception that they have, is when you refuse the one on the side of the road, that you lose your license for that. You will not lose your license for that. You will lose your license if you are arrested, taken back to any kind of station, and you refuse to take the officer's chemical test. That's when you can lose your license. Now, the officer is supposed to tell you and advise you of your rights, that if you refuse that test, then you will also suffer 6 points on your license and a revocation, suspension of your driver's license. And that's a huge pain in the ass. You do not want that whatsoever. So there's two tests that they're going to offer to you. One on the side of the road. Absolutely do not take that one. They're also going to ask you to do field roadside sobriety tests. Walk a straight line. There's other the ones that you have read about. There's standardized ones, but I don't want to get super technical. But basically, when they ask you to do those, you don't have to do those. And for the love of God, don't do those whatsoever. There's nothing good that's going to come out of those. I've seen officers try and do those tests. They can't do those. Not many people can do those even when they're sober. So don't do them whatsoever. All that's happening is you're giving them evidence to fit a conclusion that they already have in their mind, which is maybe this person's drunk. And so don't give that to them. Don't do it, because you don't have to. So why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. So don't do that. Great question, Anna. So that's a fantastic question. So that one on the side of the road, you do not have to take. The one back at the station, they'll either ask you to take another breath test, or they will sometimes, because the Michigan State Police had a real tough time with some of their workers committing fraud with some of their calibration of their records. There was a company that was hired that was engaging in fraud earlier this year, so they took a lot of those data masters out of service. So they'll either ask you to take a data master test or a blood test. That one you have to take, or you will lose your license. And it's incredibly difficult to get that back. You'll lose it for at least a year, so you don't want that. So that one, on the side of the road, refuse. Back at the station, you have to take their test. So Now, getting to this new era of testing. So how do we've got people driving possibly under the influence of marijuana. How do we test for that? Well, there's not a lot of the science on this. This is a roadside pilot test. This is a pilot test. What's a pilot test mean to you? What it means to me is we don't have this worked out yet, but we're going to try it out on you. And how much sense does that make? I mean, would you want to put your hands in potentially your life and your liberty in the hands of someone that's operating a machine that we don't know how great it is? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't know. So, long story short, great question, Ashley, which is, do you have to take this one? No. And nothing's going to happen with you on that. That's one less thing that they can use to place you under arrest. So that's something I would definitely recommend that you not do, and I'm not the only one. So there's other people that would say the same thing. So yeah, those are the questions that I have for you guys. If you guys have anything, let me know. I'm just gonna wrap up. I'm gonna do some shameless plugs here, but because this Friday we're doing a outdoor, socially distanced, masks for people in the audience, outdoor comedy show at Salsa Parlor in East Lansing. If you're interested about that, I can post that in the comments. I think that's gonna be fun as long as everyone's gonna be safe. I think we can as long as we're outside and using masks. I think we can have some fun, and especially hopefully the weather's gonna be all right. So that's one thing. So I also want to let you guys know I joined this group of guys, Salsa Parlor. We got some stuff that we're working on, and I'm really excited about that. So make sure you check that out. I'll put the link in the bottom of this too. We're actually doing a shoot tomorrow at my office. We got some cool stuff coming up with that. Funny videos, sketches, all kinds of cool stuff. So make sure you check that out. Also, just follow me on Instagram, or there's a page here on Facebook for comedy and stuff that I do. If you just it's at Nick Leydorf, and working on some funny stuff, and I'm really excited to keep creating content. All this is making me rethink and get more creative about how I get stuff out there. So I'm so excited that you guys stuck around and asked questions. If you want to send questions to me, feel free to do so. I love to answer questions. And if there's I just want to make it clear. So people, you don't have to make your name public. If you send it to me, I'll keep your name anonymous if you want to, or if you want me to share your name, that's fine too. But I want you to be able to be free however you want to ask a question. And then let's talk about it. So, and I'm working on the technology of bringing in people, because I've got Anna. I want Anna to talk to you about some financial stuff too. I think she has a great amount of knowledge, and I want you guys to be able to learn some stuff too, along as having some fun as well. So as I'm working out the tech, I'm gonna bring some guests on, and we can talk more about stuff. And then also want to be able to use media and bring some videos and stuff into it too. So again, thanks so much, you guys. I really appreciate it. And we'll tune in next week at 8 o'clock for Off the Clock. And thanks so much. And I will see you guys later. All right. Bye. See ya.